Okay, today we'll see about the control of respiration. See why we have to learn regarding this control of respiration. Generally, in our body, daily, if you see 200 ml of oxygen, that is going to be utilized by our cells per each minute. Okay, in case of normal individual, daily 200 ml of oxygen will be utilized by our body cells. Okay, see that means 200 ml of oxygen will be utilized by our body cells per each minute. That is in case of normal individual, but in case of vigorous exercises, still the consumption of oxygen is going to be increases. But further, it will be increases in case of the athletes. Depending upon the condition, the consumption of oxygen is going to be increased inside our body. See, but even though during that conditions, the respiration is going to be controlled inside our body mainly by two mechanisms. Okay, the first one is the respiratory center. Okay, and next one is chemoreceptor. Okay, regulation of respiration. Clear? See, by these two mechanisms, we are going to be controlling the respiration, or you will also call it as a regulation of respiration. Okay, first we'll see about the respiratory center, what is going to be happening in case of this respiratory center. Clear? See this respiratory center, which is having again three different areas in case of this respiratory center. Okay, the first one you will call it as medullary rhythmicity area. Okay, medullary. Okay, rhythmicity area. And the second one is pneumotaxic area. And the third one is apneustic area. Okay, these are the three areas that are present in case of this respiratory center. Okay, what are those? That is medullary rhythmicity area. Next one is pneumotaxic area, and the third one is apneustic area. Okay, if you see this medullary rhythmicity area, that will be present in case of medulla oblongata. This will be present in case of pons, and this is also present in the pons of the brain stem. Is it clear? See, this medullary rhythmicity area will be present in case of medulla oblongata, and pneumotaxic area will be present in the pons, and apneustic area is present in case of pons. First, we'll see about this medullary rhythmicity area and how it is going to be controlling the respiration. Mainly, this medullary rhythmicity area, it is going to be functions to maintain the rhythm of respiration. Maintain the rhythm of respiration. See, again, if you see this medullary rhythmicity area, which is again having inspiratory areas and the expiratory areas. Okay, this is having inspiratory area, and which is also having expiratory areas. Clear? See, this is the medullary rhythmicity area, again having inspiratory area, and next one is which is also having the expiratory area. Generally, during quiet breathing, inhalation occurs in 2 seconds and exhalation occurs in 3 seconds. Okay, in case of quiet breathing, if you see, inhalation occurs for 2 seconds and exhalation occurs for 3 seconds. See, this is in quiet breathing. See, but once this inspiratory area got active, clear? See, once this inspiratory area got active, which is going to be propagating the impulses to mainly the two areas. Okay, the first one is external intercostal muscles. External intercostal muscles, which can also propagate the impulses to the diaphragm. Clear? See, once this inspiratory area, this got activated, see then which will be propagating the impulses to external intercostal muscles and the diaphragm. See, with the help of intercostal neurons. Okay, this is sending with the help of intercostal neurons and to the diaphragm with the help of phrenic neurons. Clear? See, these impulses from this inspiratory area, which will be sending to the external intercostal muscles through these intercostal neurons, and from this inspiratory area, which will be propagating the impulses to the diaphragm with the help of these phrenic neurons. Clear? See, once the impulses reaches these external intercostal muscles and the diaphragm, so which will be leading to the muscle contractions. When muscles undergo contractions, which leads to the inhalation for 2 seconds. Clear? See, next at the end of inhalation, see what happens. This inspiratory area will become inactive and which will be leading to the muscle relaxation. Clear? See, then immediately which leads to the exhalation for 3 seconds. Clear? See, this is the first thing, that is the inspiratory area. See what happens in this inspiratory area. You remember the medullary rhythmicity area present in the medulla oblongata, which is mainly functions to maintain the rhythm of respiration. Clear? See, this medullary rhythmicity area having two areas, that is inspiratory area and the expiratory area. Okay, generally during quiet breathing, inhalation occurs for 2 seconds and exhalation occurs for 3 seconds. Clear? See, once this inspiratory area got active, okay, which will be propagating the impulses mainly two parts, that is external intercostal muscles and to the diaphragm, to these intercostal neurons and to the phrenic neurons. Clear? See, once the impulses reaches to these areas, so the muscles in the intercostal muscles and the muscles in the diaphragm undergoing contractions, which will be leading to the inhalation for 2 seconds. But the end of this inhalation, this inspiratory area will become inactive, and finally which will be leading to the muscle relaxation. See, that leads to the exhalation for 3 seconds. Okay, see, this is going to be happening in case of this inspiratory area. Now we'll see what is happened in case of the expiratory area. Clear? In case of expiratory area, see, this is inactive during quiet breathing. Inactive during quiet breathing. See, during quiet breathing itself, the inspiratory area got activated, right? But during the quiet breathing, this expiratory area will become inactive. But during forced breathing, okay, during forced breathing, whatever the impulses from the inspiratory area, the impulses from this inspiratory area, it activates the expiratory area. Clear? The impulses from this inspiratory area, which is propagated to the expiratory area. Now this expiratory area got activated, and from this the impulses will be propagated to internal intercostal muscles and also to the abdominal muscles. Clear? See, now these two muscles undergoes contractions and which will be leads to the forced exhalation. See, this is in case of that is expiratory area. Okay, what is happening in case of this expiratory area? See, that is inactive during quiet breathing, but during forced breathing, what happens? The impulses from the inspiratory area, which is propagated to the expiratory area, and now this expiratory area got activated, and which will be sending the impulses to this internal intercostal muscles as well as to the abdominal muscles. Clear? See, once the impulses reaches to this particular area, which will be leading to the muscle contraction, so which will be leads to the forced exhalation. Clear? See, one thing you remember, during the expiratory area, the mechanism, okay, the internal intercostal muscles is receiving the impulses. But in case of inspiratory area, have you remembered that is external intercostal muscles are going to be receiving the impulses from the inspiratory area. Okay, see, that's all about the first thing, that is the medullary rhythmicity area. So by which you are going to be observe the inhalation as well as the exhalation. Okay, next area, that is pneumotaxic area. Okay, pneumotaxic area. See here, mainly I told you this is present in case of pons. Okay, specifically it will be present in case of upper pons. Okay, upper part of the pons. Okay, this area is going to be propagating the inhibitory impulses. Okay, propagating the inhibitory impulses to the inspiratory area. So inhibitory impulses means this mainly useful to turn off the inspiratory areas. Okay, mainly this will be useful to turn off the inspiratory area before the lungs become too full of air. Clear? See, as the lungs are filling with the air, okay, before filling the lungs with full amount of the air, see this pneumotaxic area which will be sending this inhibitory impulses to the inspiratory area, so that which is going to be turn off this inspiratory area, so that okay, which is not able to propagate the impulses to either external intercostal muscles or to the diaphragm for further undergoing the muscle contractions. Is it clear? See, mainly the important function is to turn off this inspiratory area. See, mainly this pneumotaxic area will be useful, right? See, this pneumotaxic area mainly located in the upper pons, and this area which is going to be propagating the inhibitory impulses to the inspiratory area. So the main function is to turn off the inspiratory area, okay, before the lungs become too full of the air. Okay, so this is the second area, that is pneumotaxic area, and the third one is apneustic area. Okay, it is located in lower pons. Okay, pneumotaxic area present in the upper pons, and apneustic area which will be present in case of this lower pons. See, this is going to be propagating, that is stimulatory impulses. Okay, see, previously the pneumotaxic area I told you which is sending the inhibitory impulses, but apneustic area which will be sending the stimulatory impulses to the inspiratory area. So now this inspiratory area will become active, so which leads to long and deep inhalations. Okay, see, the long and deep inhalations are going to be possible because of this apneustic area that are present in the lower pons. Clear? See why? Because which will be sending or propagating the stimulatory impulses to the inspiratory area, so that continuously this inspiratory area will become active, which is leading to the long and deep inhalations. Okay, see, that's all about regarding the respiratory center and how which will be controlling the respiration. See, mainly by three areas, that is medullary rhythmicity area, the next one is pneumotaxic area, and third one is the apneustic area. Okay, and the second one we'll see about the chemoreceptor regulation of respiration. Okay, chemoreceptor regulation of respiration. See, generally the respiratory system functions to maintain the levels of oxygen and carbon dioxide. See, generally what is the main function of this respiratory system is to maintain the levels of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Okay, that is to maintain the levels of carbon dioxide and oxygen. This is the main function of this respiratory system. And generally inside our body we are having, that is, sensory neurons. See, these kind of sensory neurons that is going to be monitors the changes in the levels of this carbon dioxide and oxygen, and which will be sending input to the respiratory center. Clear? Inside our body we are having the sensory neurons. Okay, these sensory neurons monitors if there is any changes in the levels of oxygen and carbon dioxide, and which will be sending input to the respiratory center. And see, the sensory neurons that responds to the chemicals is known as chemoreceptors. Okay, whatever the sensory neurons that responds to the chemicals is known as chemoreceptors. Okay, these chemoreceptors in two locations, mainly these chemoreceptors in two locations monitors the levels of carbon dioxide and oxygen. Okay, the first one is in case of central chemoreceptors, central chemoreceptors. Clear what I am telling here? The chemoreceptors in two locations mainly monitors the levels of carbon dioxide and oxygen. First one is the central chemoreceptors that are mainly present in case of medulla oblongata, and these are going to be response to changes in H plus as well as the changes in carbon dioxide levels. Clear? If there is any changes in the H plus ions or the changes in the carbon dioxide levels, okay, see, that can be monitored by this central chemoreceptors present in the medulla oblongata. Okay, and next one is you are also having peripheral chemoreceptors. Okay, these peripheral chemoreceptors mainly located in case of aortic bodies and in case of carotid bodies. While discussing the blood pressure, we have discussed what is meant by these aortic bodies and what is meant by these carotid bodies. Clear? See, mainly these peripheral chemoreceptors present in the aortic bodies and the carotid bodies, these are going to be monitored or response mainly to oxygen, H plus, and carbon dioxide. Okay, if there is any changes in the oxygen, H plus ions and the carbon dioxide, immediately these kind of peripheral chemoreceptors will be responded. Clear? See, these are the chemoreceptors in two locations that is going to be monitoring these levels. If H plus and carbon dioxide means only the central chemoreceptors, and all these three will be monitored with the help of these peripheral chemoreceptors that are present in the aortic bodies as well as in case of the carotid bodies. See, generally if you see the carbon dioxide, which is a lipid soluble, okay, which can be easily diffused into the cell. So this carbon dioxide in the presence of water molecules Okay, and with the help of carbonic anhydrase, okay, it is producing carbonic acid. Clear. Carbon dioxide in the presence of reacts with the water in the presence of carbonic anhydrase, which is producing this bicarbonate, so which will be easily broken down into H plus plus bicarbonate ions. Clear. See, that means if there is a high concentration of oxygen inside our body, there will be high amount of H plus ions. If there is a decreased concentration of carbon dioxide, there will be decreased levels of H plus. Clear. See, if the normal carbon dioxide, if you see the partial pressure of carbon dioxide in the arterial blood, which will be around 40 mm Hg. Okay, this is the normal level. If there is a slight increase in this carbon dioxide levels, okay, if there is a slight increase in the carbon dioxide levels, that condition you will call it as hypercapnia. You will call it as hypercapnia or hypercarbia. Okay, these two are one and the same. If there is a slight increase in the carbon dioxide levels inside the body, you will call it as hypercapnia or hypercarbia. Okay, see, this carbon dioxide, which is a lipid soluble, so which reacts with the water molecules in the presence of carbonic anhydrase, and it is producing the carbonic acid, which is easily broken down into H plus and bicarbonate ions. See, that means if there is a more amount of carbon dioxide, so more amount of the H plus is going to be produced. Clear? Suppose if there is a less carbon dioxide, then less amount of H plus is going to be produced here. And if you see the normal partial pressure of carbon dioxide, okay, inside our body, that is in the arterial blood, it is 40 mm of Hg. Suppose if there is a slight increase in this carbon dioxide levels in the blood, that condition you will call it as hypercapnia or hypercarbia. Okay, see, and next if you see the normal levels of oxygen in the arterial blood is 100 mm of Hg. If there is a slight decrease in these levels, okay, suppose if there is a slight decrease in the oxygen levels, then immediately peripheral chemoreceptors are activated. Okay, we had seen previously that peripheral chemoreceptors are activated. Clear? So if further these oxygen levels are decreased, okay, suppose if further there will be a deficiency of oxygen, so which is going to be depress the central chemoreceptors, okay, and also the inspiratory area, so which will be sending very fewer impulses to the muscles for the inhalation. See, that's what is going to be happening if there is a very low partial oxygens inside our body. See, because of that, it is going to be depresses the central chemoreceptors and the inspiratory area. So only very few impulses, okay, very few impulses that will be sending to the muscles for inhalation. Clear? See, that is if there is a low levels of the oxygen. Suppose if there is high levels of carbon dioxide in the blood, see, I told you that condition is hypercapnia or hypercarbia. See, in this case, the input from the central and the chemoreceptors, okay, input from the central and peripheral chemoreceptors, which causes the inspiratory area to become highly active. Clear? Suppose inside the blood, if the carbon dioxide levels are very high, then the input from the central and the peripheral chemoreceptors causes this inspiratory area that is the highly active and which is causing the rapid and deep breathing. Rapid and deep breathing, this you will call it as a hyperventilation. Okay, this process we will call it as hyperventilation. So which is going to be allows the inhalation of more oxygen and allows the exhalation of more carbon dioxide. Okay, see this in case of high amount of carbon dioxide in the blood. So the input from the central and peripheral chemoreceptors causes the highly active inspiratory area which leads to the rapid and deep breathing. That process we will call it as hyperventilation. So which allows the inhalation of more oxygen and exhalation of more amount of the carbon dioxide. Next, if there will be low level of carbon dioxide than 40 mm of Hg. Clear, I already told you the normal level is 40 mm of Hg. If it is less than 40 mm of Hg, that condition you will call it as hypocapnia or hypocarbia. Okay, you remember decrease means hypo, okay, increase means hyper. Okay, high concentration of carbon dioxide, I told you hyper. Okay, decreased concentration you will call it as a hypo. Clear? In this case both the central and peripheral chemoreceptors, okay, these are not stimulated whenever there is a decreased levels of carbon dioxide. So no impulses will be sending to the inspiratory area. Okay, if there is no impulses which will be sending to the inspiratory area, so now this inspiratory area which sets its own pace, okay, that means still the carbon dioxide accumulates and which levels rises to 40 mm of Hg. Clear? See, whenever there is a decreased levels of carbon dioxide, that condition you will call it as hypocapnia or hypocarbia. In this case, both the that is the central chemoreceptors and the peripheral chemoreceptors are not stimulated and which will be not sending the impulses to the inspiratory area. So this inspiratory area itself sets its own pace, okay, which will be maintaining some pace till the carbon dioxide will be accumulated and it is okay raising the levels of carbon dioxide to 40 mm of Hg. Okay, see, that's all students about the control of respiration.